It's Teacher Ellen. I wanted to just tell you how I keep things organized when I'm doing multiple classes in a row. So usually I teach about 4 to 5 classes in a row with no breaks because I just like to get things done and I don't like to have these long break periods in the middle. I'm pretty good nowadays at keeping my classes at 25 minutes, maybe 26 minutes. If I need to run to the bathroom, I know I can still do that and not take more than 2 minutes for me. So it works out. So what I always do is the night before I teach in the morning, typically. The night before I teach, I go through and I look at all of my slides for the next day, what classes I'm teaching. It's great because now the app will tell you if it's a new lesson that you're teaching, if you've never done it before, and if it's a new student that you're teaching, so you can go in and see all the information. I like to check on the student information, see what other teachers have said, maybe if this student is really great or if they need certain help or encouragement in a different area. I like to know that in advance. And I go through all the slides for the lesson to just see. So typically I don't need more than just my whiteboard and like a couple of props. I have flashcards that have letters on them, so I'll say like big I, small I, and also I have a whiteboard that I use with letter magnets where if I need to come up with different phonic sounds and everything that I need to work out on there and switch letters out, then I'll use that. But otherwise, I'm pretty low-key with my props, so I don't need to do too much prep work, but I do like to know what to expect. So that's one thing. And then for keeping track of things for my classes, what I do is, it took me a while to start doing this, but I recently, about a month ago or so, bought a little notebook from the Dollar Tree. And it just says VIPKID Notes. And I do, every day is a new piece of paper, and I will, in advance, I will write down the student's name, Jason, 32219, and if it's a free talk, which is a different kind of a class, then I'll write that down, or something like that. But I'm pretty easy. I just write their name and today's date, and then some little notes. So this child was lackluster, low energy, but he did fine. Kevin, my next student, anything that he did, he had a unit assessment. So I just make notes while we're going, and I like to make notes there so that then I can go back and update my personal notes for the student, which I'll explain later. But this is just where I'll make a note. For example, I had a student today who I had the best lesson with. Her name was Darcy, and I wrote down all kinds of notes. I don't always take such extensive notes, but today I did. She has 2 sisters who are 27 and 18. She's 13. So I just included this information so I remember these pieces of information for her, because I hope that this was my first time teaching her, and I hope that she'll be a regular student because we had a blast. So that's what I do, and that is really helpful because also when you get feedback, sometimes the feedback, it'll just say the student's name, and sometimes it's their Chinese name, and it won't say their, their English name, and it'll just say the date, and you're like, oh my gosh, what was that all about? So I like to go back and be like, oh yeah, on on 3/11, I taught this student, and those are my notes, or something. It just gives you a little bit of a clue, so you're kind of piecing the information together. So I have found that this is the best way to keep track of things. So one other little tip that I have for just kind of streamlining the process and helping you out so you don't get too confused is this. I go in to the app on my computer, and I prior to my lessons, like usually I'll check out the slides and everything the night before just from my phone, on the app on my phone. But then what I will do is I will create my feedback in advance and then just edit it to reflect how the lesson actually went. And so what I like to do then is I go into the app that's on my computer, and when you are doing that, you click on materials, and that will bring you to the lesson. So you can look at the slides, you can look at videos of other teachers teaching that lesson if there is a video there, which can be really helpful. And then if you go down, you can see different comments and feedback from other teachers who have taught the lesson. There's tips and tricks. Some people write down the props that they used, and there's a feedback template. Now, I didn't realize this until so much later, and this is so helpful. You definitely want to do the workshop on feedback, but in the meantime, this is great. So what I like to do is a lot of teachers will put a template there that they have used where it really just breaks down what was covered in the lesson. I just copy and paste it. I edit it to reflect my students' information. So in my email, I use Gmail, I just have a draft and I call it generic. I was for a while breaking it down by lesson and this and that, and it got too complicated because now I'm just teaching a lot. So what I do is I have one big generic email draft that I edit all the time, and I just have all of my different feedbacks in there, and every day it changes. So today I have all of them from the students I did today, and I will just paste the feedback in there from the materials section and, edit it to make it mine and with the information of the student. And so I will have, like, if I'm teaching 6 students that day, I will have basically six paragraphs or 6 chunks of the different feedback in order per class, per student. And that way, then, when I come back, or if I have a couple of minutes extra between classes, I can just go into my draft email, edit it up, say, focus on what they need to work on for homework or how the class went, if they were totally distracted or whatever, and show that. And then I will just go ahead and paste it into the feedback so it is specific to that student. And that has made it such a much easier process to do that, because I always include some of the same things. I always say at the beginning, it was great to see Momo today, or it was really nice to meet Momo today. And then at the end, I always end my emails with the same thing, which I guess I can go ahead and say here. Actually, I don't think I have it in front of me. If I look on my computer, I think it'll stop recording. So basically I say, great job today, Momo. I can't wait to teach you again, or I look forward to teaching you again soon. Parents, if you were happy with today's lesson, please leave me a 5-apple feedback. This is very helpful to me. Thank you, parents. Teacher Alan D, or whatever my show name is. So that's what I like to do. And so that way I get feedback from parents. I get always 5-apple feedback. And obviously if it was a bad lesson, if the student wasn't behaving, or if I don't really want feedback, I will delete that comment. But otherwise, that's something that I just keep in all of my feedback. It's a standard thing for me. So anyway, I hope that was really helpful. So get a notebook where you can keep everything. Create an email where you can copy and paste and keep your feedback on hand, so it's much easier to do per class. And I think that's it for now. Good luck. Yay!